Hi, this is John. I'm recording for our thalassemia channel, and on the call with me, I have Yasmeen. She's a thalassemia patient. And how old are you, Yasmeen?
I am 28 years young.
Wow, what a youngster. So anyhow, Yasmeen and I both have thalassemia, and I've talked about it on the channel, but I'm a bit older than she is. I'm 52, and she's younger. She's the next generation, but you're soon to be an older generation.
Oh boy, I'm not ready for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you got the youngsters coming up now, and she's been leading them. So yeah, so during my time as a thalassemia patient growing up, treatment was uh, a little less available to patients like me. It was in the 70s that patients really kind of started to live longer due to iron chelation, because the blood transfusion causes an iron overload, and we need what's called iron chelation to get iron out of our system. And so that really came along in the 70s, and but it was via sub-Q pump, and compliance wasn't the best in patients my age, but people were starting to live longer due to the therapy. And then come in the early 2000s, there were a lot of oral op or a couple, there were two oral options available, and compliance got a lot easier, and patients are living normal lives now. So it's really awesome. And I
Good.
wanted to include that. And so Yasmin's part of that group. And so Yasmin, you just got married, right?
It's been like 2.5 years now. It's hard to believe time passes by so fast.
Yeah, 2.5 years already. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah,
And so yeah, how's that everything going well for you?
it's been going well. Yeah, I think moving across the country was really hard and getting all my healthcare stuff set up was like kind of scary at first, but I think now it's all smooth sailing. So
Good, good. And so where were you born?
in Florida, Orlando, Florida.
Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know if you came, what's your ethnicity?
My parents moved from Pakistan. My mom moved maybe like a year-ish before I was born. But I was born in Florida.
Okay. I just wasn't sure what your ethnicity was, and like were you both parents carriers of thalassemia, and that's
I
how
guess
you ended up?
so. They didn't find out until they were diagnosed, until I was diagnosed. So they
Oh,
were
okay. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
like 6 months old. Yeah.
My fetal hemoglobin kind of hung around till I was 4 years old, and
Oh,
that's when they
nice.
discovered in me.
Nice.
But anyhow, Yasmin just got married to Ollie,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're doing awesome. You just moved to Michigan from Florida, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. For again, it's my third winter now.
How
Don't
are you
like
liking?
fall.
You don't like it?
No, no, it's too much snow. We were just in the negative degrees of like last week and it was awful.
Oh man, yeah. It snowed a little bit here in North Carolina, and I'm from Ohio, but I still don't like the snow or
Yeah.
cold, you know. But yeah, so you're in Michigan now, and you're very active with the Cooley's Anemia Foundation, correct?
Yes, I
And
am.
good. And what all do you do with the Cooley's Anemia Foundation?
So I help run a lot of like the children's sessions, especially during the at the conferences. I've kind of taken on that role, which I really love doing. I also serve as one of the Care Walk committee members. So we organize the National Care Walk every year and try to get mo people motivated to do their own care walks.
Okay,
Um,
and what exactly is a care walk?
a care walk is a fundraising walk that people anywhere in America or anywhere around the world can participate in. They just donate about $20 and then they can join any team. They can join virtually or in person. There are care walks that are happening like all around the nation. Pretty much almost every state has one, I feel like at this point. So that's
Mhm.
really exciting. And if there's not a care walk locally to you, you can just donate order to support people, or you can walk even around your backyard. So it's kind of a cool fundraiser and a make your own care walk. It's not super strenuous or anything.
Right. Oh, good, good. Yeah, that's something I have to be more a part of. I did one years ago, and I'm like, I have 1,000 excuses, why I haven't done one.
Yeah.
But
Kind
you
of
know,
surprised with you and all your
yeah,
fitness things. I feel like you can
yeah,
make it something.
yeah. And excuses are for losers, and I have no excuse. So,
Because you're
but
not a loser.
yeah, maybe I will join you on your next one. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm actually
so what
wearing
else?
the shirt for the care walk right now.
Awesome. 2020 was the 10th year.
That was, yeah. So we're coming up on the,
15.
yes, it's 15th year now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Wow. That is exciting. So what else do you do with the Coolies?
I just recently became a board member for the Cooley's Anemia Foundation, so that's been kind of exciting to see some of the inner workings of all the things. Um, I think that's most of what I do. I'm sure there's other things that I do. I run some of the groups with Kathleen for the young adults. Um,
Okay.
but yeah,
I
that's
kind of know some of this, but I'm just
yeah.
letting, the viewers know what you do.
Yeah, pretty much
And
anything Craig asks me to do, I usually say yes. So
awesome. And that's so great for the rest of us patients that you take a big part in that.
yeah,
And are you still working right
I
now
am.
or
Yes, so
okay.
I am a full-time school librarian, and I help run the 7 elementary schools in my school district. So it's
Wow,
a
that's
very big
great.
job. Yeah.
So you're able to manage, your job, your career, and the work with the Cooley's Anemia Foundation without thalassemia interfering with it at all, it
Yeah, it
seems.
took a little finesse at first, but I've figured out how to make everything work. So
Right. So do you feel sometimes do you feel the more you have presented to you, the more you can accomplish?
sometimes I'm like that kind of person that like can't just be a passive member of things. I like have
Right.
to take the reins and like do things within everything that I'm a part of. And I
Mhm.
think that I say yes way too often, but
Mhm.
I end up figuring out how to make it work. So
Yeah, you
any
always
negative
find a way.
consequences.
Right, right. So what are some drawbacks of having thalassemia growing up for you?
Well, my family was like super private about thalassemia, like growing up. Like we only really told my teachers that I had thalassemia, and that's why I would have to miss so much school. But I think the most challenging part was like keeping that part of my life a secret from like all my friends and from most of my family even. Um, like really only my immediate family knew that lived in my house. Even my aunts and uncles like never knew growing up that I had thalassemia. And I think that played such a heavy role in like my emotional life growing up. Um, so that was kind of like the biggest challenge when I was younger.
Mhm.
Um,
Right. And how old were you think, when you started letting people know about your thalassemia?
it wasn't until like my second year of college, to be honest. So,
Oh, wow.
like, yeah, so like pretty much my entire like life, I didn't tell anyone until I turned like 18 or 19 years old. So,
hmm
yeah.
And I can kind of relate to that. Growing up, I think for the kids nowadays and younger people like you, it's a little easier now that you're older. And, when we entered the like 90s and 2000s, people are more accepting of like chronic illness and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. There's not such a stigma, like when I was younger, people said, oh, this kid's got blood cancer and all
Right.
this stuff. And so I was very private about it. I didn't want people to know. And once somebody found out, they were like, all these stories. And I lived in a small town. It made things really difficult. But
Right.
you know, I was probably in my 20s when I really started talking more about
Yeah.
it. And like at work now, it's common knowledge. So,
Right. Yeah. Now
yeah,
everyone knows. Yeah.
right. So, life gets better with thalassemia. So, that's good. So, what are you looking forward to in the future with thalassemia? Are you like up on any new treatments or anything like that?
I am only like taking my chelation right now. I haven't like really experimented with any of the new things that have come out like with the Reblozyl or any of the other stuff that's like in the works at the moment. I haven't really
Hmm.
experimented with any of that yet. So,
Right.
but I am like really excited to see all of the developments. I feel like this is the year, like 2025 is the year for thalassemia where big things are happening.
Yeah, I think
And
it's like an explosion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, everything's gonna explode, and I am really excited to just see what comes out of it and like what I might want to try and experiment with, or what like even gives me hope for the future generation because I do so much work with children in my career, but also with the children involved with the Cooley's Anemia Foundation. So I'm really like excited for them too.
Right. And I think it's awesome, because you have a great educational role. You're young and you can influence a lot of kids and teach them about thalassemia, with social media, everything, which wasn't there when I was younger. I mean, we still kind of manage to spread the word, but I mean, I think it's awesome right now for kids growing up with thalassemia.
Yeah.
There's a
I
lot
think
of
it's
options available.
I think it's kind of a possibility. Like there's so many options that like a lot of them may get cured within their lifetime, and I think that's really awesome to think about.
Right. And not only like cures and treatment, but just social support, I think is
Yeah, yeah,
outstanding.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, if you had something to tell a child with thalassemia now, what is the most important thing you could like pass on to them as far as
Um,
advice or knowledge?
there's so many things I'd want to tell kids. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like don't let
I know I put you on the
thalassemia,
spot.
yeah, like don't just let thalassemia stop you from living your life.
So yeah, I mean, did you want to talk a little bit about your treatments growing up and what your, transfusions and chelation look like?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed when I was about 6 months old, and I started getting my first blood transfusions when I was about a year old. Um, and when I was growing up, they were about every 4 to 5 weeks. My parents would often try to like push it to 5 weeks just to avoid so much iron overload. Um, and then when I was about 7, I started on the Desferal pump, which was a like sub-Q iron chelation overnight. Um, and I did that not so compliantly for maybe 10-ish years, maybe a little
Hmm.
bit longer. Um, and I just remember I would like beg my dad. I'd be like, please, please, like let me skip, like it hurts too much. And I think it was really hard, like as a dad to have to like poke your kid
Yeah.
every single night. And so he would like often cave and would let me skip, like not really thinking too much about the repercussions.
Yeah,
And
because you don't
then,
see them right away,
yeah, you
so
don't, and it's so hard. Um, and then X-Shade came out, and I was still super non-compliant with that just because I hated like the chalky
wow.
texture
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
it was, that's right.
It was like, I don't know, I just could not do the texture at all. And like my dad would mix the X-Shade up and he'd go up to bed and I would like dump it down the drain and I was like not taking it and I just like
Oh
was
wow.
super non-compliant for so much of my life and I like really regret that now because I ended up like having like gallbladder like gallstones and like had ulcers and like osteoporosis kicked in and like so many things like piled up and I was
Hmm.
like, oh great. Like I never felt the effects back then because like if you skip a day, you don't feel bad the next day. And so you just keep doing it. Um,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden my body like hit a brick wall and like faced all of those effects. So then I really
Hmm.
kicked it into gear. And thankfully that was when Jade New came out and it was just pill that you take and I was like, okay, like I have to be compliant with this. Like this is like the easiest one so far. Um,
Hmm.
and so thankfully I've been compliant with it since all of those roadblocks, but it was like really hard to like realize that it was because of me that all of those things happened and I like was kicking myself when I realized that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people. I
yeah.
mean, you're not alone. I
Yeah.
mean, the majority of us have had compliance issues off and
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
through the years. So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of it had to do like I just never had met any like people with thalassemia all through growing up. And like there was one other boy who had thalassemia in my hometown and he had passed away like when he was in high school. And so like that was the only example that I had. And I kind of got into like a really bad thought spiral of like, well, it doesn't even matter. Like I'm not even gonna live that long. And so like I got into that thought spiral and it caused all those things. And now here I am, much older than I ever thought I would be, and like facing all the consequences of all that, like rebellious behavior. So
Hmm.
now I am in a much better mindset and like have learned my lesson. So taking care of
Hmm.
that iron overload. And now because of that, I am able to get transfused more frequently. So now I go every 2 to 4 weeks and have a higher hemoglobin, which makes me feel better. And then I'm also taking care of that iron overload and like in hand with that. So
Right. And you're doing a great job. I mean, you're doing all the right things.
now
So,
I am. Yeah.
well, you got to start sometime.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's what I
you know,
wish I
you,
could tell the kids. I was
right.
always plan for living longer than you think you will because you
Yeah.
just might.
Your past is history. The rest is a mystery.
Yeah, yeah.
But well, it's not a mystery if you're compliant. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Especially with all the new things coming out, like
right. It is exciting,
yeah,
and I'm 52, so I've had my eye on this gene therapy for years. I think 2017 or 18, I knew that I wanted it when it came out. And, so when it came out, that's why I was so persistent in getting it. And I think if I was younger, I probably would wait, until something, without chemotherapy came along or
yeah,
something. But I feel like now, for me personally, is a time, you know, and it varies from person to person,
yeah.
when they're ready for certain things. But anyhow, that's where I'm at. So, are you still seeing a pediatric hematologist, or do you see an
No, they
adult
kicked me out,
hematologist now?
unfortunately.
It
I
happens.
hung on until like 21 years old and then they
Yeah.
kicked me out.
Isn't that the worst when that happens?
Yeah, it was terrible and I was like totally unprepared for it. Like nobody ever like told me what to do next. They were just like, "Okay, bye." And like I was scrambling to find like an adult doctor and like they didn't know what they were doing because nobody knows what thalassemia is in the adult world. Um, and so it
I
was just
know.
like the
It's a real
blind leading the
challenge.
blind. Yeah. It was like the blind leading the blind, and then I like figured out what I needed from my doctor. And so when I moved to the Tampa Bay area for my first teaching job, I like kind of knew what to look for and like still kept learning about what I needed as an adult because that's very much different than what you need as a child. Um,
Hmm.
and then moving to Michigan was like a challenge too to find doctors and then to get insured up here through my new job and that was scary.
Hmm.
So it took a while,
It
but
is.
yeah. Moving states is not easy and I like avoided doing that for so long. I like stayed in state for college, stayed in state for my career, and then met somebody that lived in a different state that I love too much. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it happens. But you're going to become a pro. You're 28
yeah,
years old.
yeah,
You've already moved to another state. You've
yeah,
you got new doctors, and I mean, you've made a total life change.
yeah,
And so as you get older, I mean, you're going to be a professional.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I always thought that like thalassemia stopped me from like living out of wherever I grew up, and now I realize that it doesn't. So I feel like now I can make that move again if I need to. So,
right. I mean, even though we have some, there's certain little restrictions, but I think thalassemia is empowering
yeah,
because it gives you the strength and fortitude to be persistent in breaking these chains that try to hold us back.
yeah.
So like, it kind of makes you endure and be tougher. Yeah, I grew up in Ohio. I made a big change. I moved to Florida, changed doctors, did all this stuff, and then I moved to North
Yeah.
Carolina. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I've done it too, and it is scary, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But So everything's going good with your new hematologist now, or
Yeah, everything's going really well.
good?
She like is really keen to like learning about thalassemia and like even brought up some of the things that are in like clinical trial right now to me, and I'm like, oh, this is the first. Like usually I'm the one bringing stuff to
Right.
my doctor, but like she's been amazing. So, yeah.
Hmm. And that's good, when they're willing to follow the guidelines. And it's
Yeah.
just weird because you have this ego problem sometimes with adult physicians or
Yeah.
hematologists. It doesn't matter what specialty they're in, but they have their egos and they don't want to listen to advice from others. And that's a
Oh,
red
no, yeah.
flag, people. That is a red flag. If you go to a doctor and he or she does not want to follow national guidelines, whatever
Yeah.
your illness
Yeah.
is, go away, run away
Yeah.
as
Or
fast as
even
you
like
can.
collaborate with other doctors. Like
Right.
the first doctor I had in Michigan was like not willing to follow the guidelines, not willing to collaborate with my thou specialist in Philadelphia. Like I was like, I
And there's
can't
absolutely
be,
no reason that should
yeah.
happen. Mm.
And I learned after switching all those doctors in Florida, I was like, well, I can switch doctors whenever I want. And so I did. And now I have a much better healthcare system set up. So don't be
Good.
afraid to like doctor shop a little bit until you find a good fit.
Right. And I think people, they think that they're obligated to go see a certain person. It's like, no,
Yeah,
I mean, your insurance usually covers multiple providers. And
yeah,
unless you live in like a super small town or something, but there's
right. Yeah,
always nearby towns, you're going to have options. You're
yeah,
not limited to one person or one facility. If you get transfused at one facility, you don't always have to be stuck there. You
yeah,
just you might be a little work to find a better place that fits you, but there usually are other options.
yeah. And that work is scary, but if it leads to a better treatment, then that's what you need to do.
Right, right. So anyhow, I think, you know, I really enjoyed having you, on the call. I think you're a great inspiration to the kids and stuff, especially, and to talk a little bit about the conferences every year, before we get off the
So,
call.
I like just in general the conferences or specifically with the kids?
Oh, you can talk about all of it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I like look forward to the conference every year. Like
Hmm.
it is like a little family reunion and it is phenomenal. And I remember like my very first conference like completely changed my life because I had like never met thalassemia patients before, and all of a sudden I was in a room of so many patients from like all over the state, all over the world, from
Hmm.
all like ages and everything. And I was sitting at that first welcome dinner and people were getting their like 50th medal, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's possible to like live a full life and like get married, have a career, go to college, have kids, all of that. Like it is completely possible. And I was like, I want that medal. And I am
Hmm.
gonna do everything I can
I got
to get
mine.
that medal.
Right.
Um, and it like just completely changed my like entire outlook, and that's kind of when I really started being super compliant with all my treatment and all my medication and everything. Um,
Right.
and then I quickly found out that they have like a separate like children's section like during the conferences, like they do like childcare. Um, and at first it used to mostly just be like kind of like babysitting. They'd put on like movie coloring pages and stuff, but like over the years it's like evolved into like a proper little children's conference program where like patients are leading like sessions with the kids, teaching them about chelation and teaching them about like what hemoglobin is and what iron is within your blood, and like all of these little parts to make it like more of a educational but still fun conference for the kids. And that's kind of been really fun to like watch the evolution of and to even lead a piece of it. So I really enjoyed working with the kids portion of the conference and like helping to develop something that um, lets them have fun and lets them connect with other patients, but also learn about like how to manage their thalassemia in the best way possible and what that looks like for themselves and for their siblings that are at the conference as well. So it's been really neat.
Right. And there's classes for every age group too, right?
Yes, yeah, we see like toddlers. The toddlers have like a little toddler room. And then the ages that I work with are like ages 5 through like 12-ish. And then there's like a teenager program as well. So um there's something for all ages, and then you age into the adult conference, I guess. But a lot of the young adults still keep coming back to the teen section to talk to the teens, so it's kind of fun.
Right. It is. It's nice to talk to the younger people and share
Yeah.
your experience and
Yeah.
stuff like that and see what they're going through.
Yeah.
Talk about there's a party too. Talk about that.
Yes, that like the Saturday night like
That's the best
party,
part.
yeah, is
Yeah.
the best part of a conference. I really loved how last year there was a theme for it. Like it was a costume party, and that was great to see everyone like go all out for their costumes. But I think it's
hmm
just a fun like celebration of us and us thriving with Val. So I think it's the
hmm
best part of the conference every year. Um, and then
hmm
I feel like a lot of the patients never get any sleep at all during the conference because we're so busy catching up and talking to each other. We haven't seen each other like
hmm
all year.
Right. And it's always awesome to see everybody there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been going I think my first one was in 2013 and I've been going the last couple of years. And do you know where it's going to be this year?
I don't. They haven't announced it yet. They haven't really said
Okay.
anything yet. Yeah.
It might be on the West Coast since it was on in Atlanta this past year, right? So it will don't they
I feel like
flip-flop?
they like hop around. I feel like they try to do like East
Mhm.
Coast, Midwest-ish, which is really Chicago, and then
Yeah.
like the West
That's
Coast.
true, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
So I don't know where it'll be. It's always fun to find out. I like to like also plan a little vacation around wherever they pick.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I need to do that. I need a better work schedule.
Yeah.
But
Luckily, I have summers off to do that. So
yeah, that's awesome. And while you're young, and that's another thing I'd like to share. Like while you're young and you have extra time, go to these functions because when you're working, it's not always easy,
yeah,
to get out of work and do this
yeah.
and go to these things.
Yeah,
Do it
my
while you have
husband
the
doesn't
time.
have as nice of a schedule, but we make it work. We like to travel together, so
Yeah, your husband's so cool. He's awesome.
he likes to think so too.
That's funny. How's he doing? Pretty well?
Good, yeah, we've been traveling a little bit, a lot of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's been doing well at work, so yeah.
Good, good. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up. And thanks for being on the call. I really
Yeah, thanks for
appreciate it.
having me and thanks for doing this, John. I think it's great that you're doing all this, sharing your story and sharing everyone else's story. I think it's what everyone needs.
Yeah, I thought it was a good idea. So we'll keep it going.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, you have a good night, okay?
All right, thank you. You too.
All right. Take care.